so much. That was the warmest welcome. My name is Christen. I am a forward on the United States Women's National Soccer Team and a very proud 2007 Chadwick alum. I am so honored to be here speaking in front of you all today. I love Chadwick and I love being back here, so it really is a privilege. I often get asked about achieving goals and dealing with pressure on the soccer field. And I know that that is something as a Chadwick student you guys can all relate to. So I wanted to read you something that I wrote in 2015 right before I went to the Women's World Cup. I was mystified when my 5th grade teacher explained the concept of infinity to the class. Imagine moving from point A to point B, but you're only allowed to go half the distance at a time. When you arrive at the first halfway point, you must stop and recalculate the new halfway point, and on and on and on. You'll never arrive at B, because as you move closer to your target, you see just how many halfway points there are between you and your target, an infinite number. Wait, what? How could there be a destination that you're approaching, but that continues to get further away? The concept of achieving greatness reminds me of my elementary school math lesson on infinity. What is greatness anyway? This alluring, ever-distant word both taunts and inspires athletes. I have a weakness. I never feel like I'm good enough. I've set tangible goals throughout my career, and I've attained a lot of them. Still, I'm sure that achieving will never satisfy my hunger to achieve. Last month, Clint Bruce, former NFL quarterback and Navy SEAL commander, spoke to the U.S. Women's National Team about what he calls pursuing elite. Among the tokens of wisdom and experience he offered, one thing really hit home for me. He said, elite is this land that is only fit for the restless. While I don't know if I exist in the land of elite, I'm definitely on the battlefield with restlessness. My restlessness leaves my mind racing as I try to wind down at the end of a mandatory recovery day. It keeps me tossing after poor performances. And if I played well, playing well makes me itch to play better. There's always room for improvement. This process can be exhausting. I have a strength. I never feel like I'm good enough. That same discontentment that gets my mind spinning at night puts a spring in my step the next day when our assistant coach Tony screams max sprints during practice. This restless energy ignites my spirit to push forward. The past is not just an indicator of where I was yesterday, but it is a launching pad for tomorrow. People often tell me before games to be great, as if it's a choice I can make. Is it possible to choose greatness? If it were, I'm pretty sure most of us would choose it. Is greatness only available to a select group? Perhaps, but maybe not for the reasons I used to think. By definition, greatness is a state of superiority, that is, being better than all others. But Clint's speech had me rethinking this idea. As I listened to him, I realized that elite doesn't mean greatness itself, but the unwavering pursuit of greatness. That thought is as scary as it is freeing. How much is in my control? When speaking about his early days training to be a SEAL, Clint said that he realized he was average. Quote, there were a bunch of Olympic athletes and then there was me. To make it, he needed angles, allies, and advantages to keep up with the people around him. Anyone can pursue greatness. It is not a club only open to the gifted or the lucky. You simply have to train to get better and never give up, checking over your shoulder only to make sure you are not where you started. Clint's advantage was his unremitting spirit. I got my first call-up to the United States Women's National Team in April of 2012. Before I could exhale in relief, I had made it. I realized that this was just the beginning. The U.S. Women's National Team isn't a place where you can celebrate, put down roots, or relax. It isn't a place at all. Being on this team is an honor as well as a responsibility to my country and to myself. Maybe it is just another halfway point on the line to greatness. Because as long as you can look forward, you haven't arrived. What I do with this opportunity remains to be seen, but I know my success and my team's success depends on that forward motion. While greatness may always be viewed as a comparison to the outside world, good, better, best, inside, I know what really matters is the relentless fight for progress, which means it's only good when I demand better after I've done my best. Striving for personal excellence in this way can be like chasing infinity, which is often frustrating. But striving for team greatness is a bit different. Pushing myself is pushing the game, and that is the best thing I can do for my team and my sport. As we push ourselves, we push each other, raising the average. Rising and falling as a team is ultimately more comfortable, and shared success is more gratifying. In a math class long after my Lenata Bay Elementary School graduation, I learned that for all intents and purposes, the concept of infinity is not functional. So instead of trying to reach infinity, mathematicians describe what the value is approaching, a limit. With limits, the endpoint becomes irrelevant and the focus falls in the direction you're moving. When I look around Chadwick, in a lot of ways, I see change. I think that there's a visible change in the student body, there's a change in the program, and although I didn't think it was possible, it's even more beautiful here. In the same way I think that I'm trying to always make improvements and be better, it satisfies me and makes me really happy to see that Chadwick is doing the same thing with its community. And a very special community it is. I think that it's a testimony to that when I say that all of my closest friends in the world all graduated from Chadwick, and I all met them here on this very space that we're sharing today. I had a game in Sunday in Carson at the StubHub Center with the national team, and I had 12 fellow Chadwickians there in the stands cheering for me. So that's just to say, to appreciate the people that you're sitting with. You won't always be able to wake up in the morning and sit with them and see them every day. And someday, maybe when you're 27 or when you're 50, you're going to wish that you could. I miss my time here a lot, mostly because of the people, because Chadwick kind of teaches you how to think, teaches you to be critical, it teaches you to be inquisitive, and those lessons last for the rest of your life. Thank you. I have been to a few Chadwick alumni games, but it's been a while, I think. It's on New Year's Eve. Earlier? Well, if I'm around, I will come. I promise. I think the biggest lesson, as I mentioned briefly before, was that Chadwick kind of taught me how to think about things as opposed to what to think, so I'll speak a little bit more to that. I think that when I was at Chadwick, I very much enjoyed it, and I learned so much from my books, from my teachers, but the overall message was so much bigger than that. It was about how you approach the decisions that you have to make, how you prepare. And I can honestly say that, I was a student athlete at Chadwick, and then I was a student athlete at Stanford, and this was much more difficult. So you guys, once you get through this, you're going to be fine. And I think that's because of the workload, and it was about prioritizing my social life, playing soccer after school, and then doing all Dr. Sacco's homework. Apparently. So I think that what I took with me most was just that realization that I could do everything. And I was one of those people that was never wanted to have to give anything up. And my mom, who's up there, will tell you I was very relentless in wanting to hang out with my friends and go out on the weekends. And I wanted to, be the best soccer player I could be, and I wanted to get straight A's, and I wanted to have it all. And I think that I probably could have slept a few more hours, but I think that I'm really proud that I tried to go after it. Obviously, we all fall short in every way, but At Chadwick, I kind of learned that I could dream really, really big and work really, really hard to get there. No matter how lofty that goal seemed, I would just keep working for it and get as close as I possibly could to achieving it. I feel like I've been really lucky to play soccer at this time in history, sort of for the growth of women's sports and especially women's soccer. If you look at it globally, I think that we have so far to go in terms of respecting women in sports and the opportunities that women have to play. But as an American female athlete, I feel very blessed. I think that the national team gives us such a huge opportunity to do the thing that we love, to compete at the highest level, to pursue your passion while letting it be my job. And I have been able to travel the whole world. I lived in Sweden for a couple years playing. I'm back now. I've moved to Chicago. I've seen all of this country. I've seen so many other countries, and soccer has really given that to me as a gift. And with that, I do feel like myself and other players on the team feel like we do have a responsibility to other female athletes, to the future, to continue to push the limits and to continue to fight for equality. And it's a really hard thing to do in sport because the games are fundamentally different between men and women. And if there's not the interest, if people don't know about women's sports, then they're not going to come out and support. So I think we find it a big sense of responsibility in promoting the game and speaking well of it and getting fans to come out there and actually just pushing the game to its top quality so that when people do come, they enjoy it and they have a good time. And hopefully that will leave sort of the soccer space in a better place for girls in the future. It's a little bit of a cliche, but everyone knows the Michael Jordan quote, "I failed and failed over and over again, and that's why I succeed." And I think I hold that really true. Even when going into a big game, I try to keep my attachment to the results a little bit at bay. And it's a little bit of a lie. I tell myself, it doesn't matter if we win or we lose, like I'm just gonna do my best. And I say it over and over and over again because every fiber of my being knows how important it is. And that's scary. It's really scary sometimes when you have such a huge weight on your shoulders and such a responsibility. I kind of try to keep myself in check by reminding myself that win or lose, the sun's going to rise the next day, my friends and family are going to love me, and I have to keep this in perspective. Luckily, when you play sports, you kind of lose your way as soon as the whistle starts the game. But in that preparation, I think that's how I kind of focus. I've also become a regular meditator because I think dealing with past failings was so heavy on my heart for a really long time. And I think that in meditation I've learned that you have to be present in every moment. So as soon as a loss happens, as soon as a failure happens, you miss a shot, you let down your team, you have to leave it where it is and accept the present moment for what opportunity you have. And the sun always does rise. And so in that way, it's true. And every day you wake up, you have a new opportunity to fight again. So I think a little bit is just losing the attachment to the results and to the outcome, to trying to appreciate the journey and how you get there. And then at the same time, no matter how many times you failed or you've let people down, don't let that deter you from trying again the next day. Because every day you have another chance. And that's why I love my job. No matter, maybe I'm just training, maybe it's just me and the ball, I always have an opportunity to get better. And that's what keeps me motivated through all of the failings and all of the mistakes. That depends. I have just started my official vacation, so I will train no hours this week. But usually it's from about 2 to 4 hours a day. Usually more on the 2-hour side. Games obviously are longer. Sometimes we get in the gym. But I would say that about this job is sometimes I laugh at myself and I say I only have to work for 2 hours every day. And then on the other hand, it's actually a life job. I'm working when I'm sleeping, I'm working when I'm eating. Every decision I make kind of goes into what I'm doing. On top of training, we are watching film and we're studying soccer a little bit. So I think that there's a lot more hours that go into it. I actually almost never feel like I'm on a break, but I'm only on the field for about 2 hours a day, I would say. I think that it was very difficult at Chadwick especially and at Stanford, trying to balance all of those things. And as I mentioned before, I was always a person that liked to be around people and do social things, and I thought that those relationships were really important as well. So I kind of felt like I was being pulled in a lot of different ways, and the way I handled it was just try to do it all. And there obviously was prioritizing, but I did a lot of homework in the car as I drove to practice. Luckily, my mom drove me far after I had my license. She would still drive me so I could do my homework in the seat next to her. And I studied a lot with my friends, and that was a way for me to be able to kind of be around the people that I loved and also be doing the right thing. So there was a lot of study parties and a lot of study guides. And I think the prioritizing and the balancing became really important for Stanford, for going to college, and then just now in life. I think that whatever you do or however you manage your life, you're always going to be having to decide where you want to spend your time, and those decisions kind of shape your life. And I think the answer is not a straightforward one, because when I was young, there wasn't a professional women's soccer league, so I sort of always just looked at the next step. So when I was at Chadwick, I wanted to win a championship at Chadwick, and I wanted to get into college. And then when I was in college, I just wanted to win a championship in college. And my junior year, they started a women's league. And a lot of my teammates, when they graduated, they had started going into that league. So it wasn't until I was a junior in college that I even thought that that was a possibility. I think I've always looked at the national team. Since obviously the 1999 Women's World Cup team, a lot of people saw that. It was right here in LA. So that's when I first started to dream about being a member of the national team. And then I think that kind of pulled me along. And it wasn't until the end of my college career that I even thought I had a chance to be a pro. I started playing soccer when I was 4, I think. And I recently told this story. I was very not interested my first year. I mostly picked flowers and made daisy chains and did epic performances for my mom and the camera. And the whole season went by and I never once touched the ball. So that was my epic beginning. But the next year I was a lot better, I think. The most important thing I've learned, I think, is just to put the emphasis on your journey and kind of appreciate every step along the way. I think that that's important when you're dealing with failure, as I spoke to before. And I think it's important just to remember that it's kind of our responsibility to be happy and to wake up with a good attitude every day. Some people think that if you achieve these things, you will become happy. But I believe that happiness is my responsibility, and I need to do things and build things into my life so that I can be satisfied and enjoy my life. And the reason that that's so important is because I truly believe that when you're doing what you love, when you're enjoying your work, you're way more productive. And I think when I watch myself play, when I watch film back, every time I play well, I'm smiling, I'm laughing, I'm happy, visibly happy on the field. And I think that those things go hand in hand. I think, you can be successful by just being miserable and grinding it out, but that's not the success that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the type of success that's satisfying, that's enjoyable, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm working really hard at it. I think that the most important quality in leadership, from my perspective, is communication. I think everyone as humans, we just want to be heard, we want to be listened to, and we want to be appreciated. So I found in working with teams, coaches have to make very tough decisions all the time. Only 11 players are going to play. Some of your players are always going to be mad that they're not playing. But the coaches that can acknowledge that and can accept and get their players to embrace all the different roles that they have, I think those are the coaches that get the most out of their players. When I went to Chadwick, I think I still trained every day for at least 2 hours. Sometimes I would come out just a little early to practice, so maybe a little longer than that, and then maybe I get to take a day off once a week. But it was about the same as now, I think. I think that a lesson that Chadwick specifically taught me that has helped me in soccer is understanding the power of a group. And I learned this a lot when studying for Chadwick exams because, as I mentioned before, I was really trying to do it all and like be with my friends. So we did a ton of like study groups, and I found that I understood information 10 times better if I was presenting it to my friends or if they were presenting it to me than compared to if I was just reading it on my own in a book. And I think that that is a lesson that kind of is the essence of football. It's that, 11 people on a field are going to be so much more than the sum of 11 individuals. That the beauty and the nuances of the game is that if you learn the player next to you and you learn their tendencies, you can make movements and decisions faster than the other team because you sort of know what your teammate's going to do. And that's how you win games. That's how you beat excellent opponents, is by using your familiarity and your training to be bigger than just the sum of the parts. And I think that was the same that was true when I was studying and getting ready for Chadwick exams. That is also a very good question because I think there were times in my life that I did not enjoy soccer, that I definitely thought it was a job, that the pressure to perform kind of weighed on me a little. And that happened a lot when I went to college and I felt the responsibility to bring home a championship to Stanford. And I failed at that 4 times. And so I think that the pressure and the expectations weighed on me a lot, and I think I lost my love for the sport a little bit. And it took a trip basically to the other side of the world, to Sweden, where I played for 3 years professionally, to find that again. And I think it was a little bit was like some of the distance from all of those expectations and all of those pressures and all those past failures, just the literal distance of being away. I got to play in Sweden and no one knew I was there, no one knew who I was there, and nobody really cared. So I think that that allowed me to kind of find my freedom and find my space on the field. And I was scoring goals, and I was just scoring goals for myself, and nobody was keeping track of it. In college, it's so much about your stats and so much about your wins and your losses, but I was in an environment that I could just be myself, and there was no other reason to play other than I loved it. And I also, at the time, hadn't made the national team, and it was my goal. I had been a professional for a year. I had been at college, and I really wanted to be on the national team, and I hadn't. So I think that distancing myself from the national team also gave me that freedom to play for myself and not to just play for the glory or play for the reward or the opportunity to be on the national team. I do still get nervous for games. I think it's usually only like really big games now. But still, sometimes I play, even when I was in Sunday playing in Carson, it was I was a little nervous because I knew everybody was in LA and there's so many people there. But I do think that I still get nervous, and I actually think that's a good thing. I think the day that I go out and I'm just oh, whatever, this isn't special, I think then I'll have lost my passion for it. I think that when I'm nervous, I sometimes just remind myself that this is the human experience, and that I'm alive, and that it's fun to kind of be afraid and to face your fears regularly. I do practice meditation regularly in order to kind of balance that out with a little bit of perspective. And meditation sort of teaches you that you do have the power to control your thoughts and control your energy and your vibration that you kind of put out to the world more than you think you do. And I can talk to you more about meditation, but it's sort of about stripping the value away from these things. We think, oh, I have to score or I failed. And you just kind of learn to take that pressure off, to take that expectation off, and just to be. And I am my best self when I'm comfortable, when I'm happy, when I'm loose. If you think about soccer, when you're kind of running around the field freely, that's when you play your best. So I think meditation has helped me a lot, and I do yoga a lot too, and they have the same lessons that I really appreciate. Oh, I thought about this before I came today. If I could give one piece of advice to my high school self, I think it would just be to sit down from time to time and appreciate all that I have. High school is a wonderful time, but it can be really hard. And I really did enjoy Chadwick day to day. I think, I love walking around this campus and being around so many inspiring people. But as soon as you leave, you're never going to get the bubble back, and you're never going to be in such a tight-knit community like Chadwick. I think it's really special. And so I would have liked to sit down and appreciate that from time to time, just reflect on that, because it is something that, you could look your whole life for.